Book review: The River is Waiting by Wally Lamb. Plot summary: Wally Lamb's The River is Waiting delves into the profound depths of guilt, atonement, and the arduous journey toward redemption through the eyes of Corby Ledbetter, a young father whose life irrevocably shatters following an unimaginable tragedy. The novel opens by introducing Corby, a man in his early 30s, grappling with the immense pressures of new fatherhood, the recent loss of his job as an artist at an advertising firm, and a burgeoning insidious secret, a growing addiction to prescription anxiety medication, Ativan, and alcohol. He and his beloved wife, Emily, a dedicated teacher, are parents to energetic 2-year-old twins, Macy and Nico. With Corby laid off, he has assumed the role of primary caregiver, a responsibility that, coupled with his secret substance abuse, pushes his marriage to the brink. Corby's days are a precarious balancing act of caring for his children and succumbing to his addiction, often mixing rum into his morning coffee and relying on pills to numb his anxieties and the sting of unemployment. He tells himself it's a temporary coping mechanism, a stopgap thing until he lands a new job, but the truth is far more grim. His attempts to find work are half-hearted, overshadowed by a deepening depression and the alluring escape offered hidden habits. Emily, though patient and loving, is unaware of the full extent of his struggle, bearing the financial burden and the emotional weight of their strained household. The narrative reaches its devastating turning point on a seemingly ordinary morning. Impaired by his addiction, Corby makes a catastrophic error in judgment. While distracted and not fully alert, he backs his car out of the driveway, tragically running over one of his twins, Nico, who was playing innocently outside. The unthinkable happens. Nico dies. This single horrific act tears Corby's family apart, shattering their idyllic life and plunging them in an abyss of grief, blame, and despair. Following the accident, Corby is consumed by an overwhelming sense of guilt. He initially struggles with the truth of his impairment, but eventually chooses to confess his intoxication to both Emily and the authorities, accepting full responsibility for his actions. He is subsequently found guilty of second-degree involuntary manslaughter and sentenced to 3-year term in Yates Correctional Prison. The bulk of the novel then shifts Corby's harrowing experiences within the confines of the correctional facility, providing raw and unflinching look at life behind bars. Prison life proves to be a brutal and dehumanizing ordeal. Corby is stripped of his freedom, his identity, and nearly his sanity. He witnesses frightful acts of brutality and cruelty, particularly at the hands of 2 sadistic guards who seem to delight in punishing inmates, especially after Corby attempts to defend a disturbed young prisoner named Solomon. The physical and psychological torment he endures is immense, pushing him to the brink of depression, suicidal thoughts. He struggles with the constant noise, the meager food, and the relentless despair that permeates the prison walls. However, amidst the darkness, Corby also encounters unexpected glimmers of kindness and elemental kinship. He forms an unlikely bond with Manny, his tender-hearted gay cellmate, who offers a surprising source of friendship and support. Another pivotal figure in Corby's incarceration is the compassionate prison librarian, who recognizes his potential and provides him with an outlet for creativity, allowing him to engage in art. This act of grace becomes a lifeline, offering Corby a sense of purpose and a path to process his overwhelming grief and guilt. Through his interactions with these individuals, Corby begins to understand the complexities of human connection, even in the most desolate of environments. As Corby navigates the realities of incarceration, the novel delves deeply into themes of systemic injustice, racism, and the historical mistreatment of marginalized communities, particularly Black and Indigenous people. Corby's growing awareness of these societal inequities challenges his preconceived notions and forces him to confront uncomfortable truths about power and privilege. His own suffering allows him to empathize more deeply with the struggles of others, particularly vulnerable young inmate Solomon, whom he takes under his protection at great personal risk. Outside the prison walls, Corby's connection with his wife, Emily, remains fragile. Emily, consumed by her own grief and the immense responsibility of raising Macy alone, finds it difficult to reconcile with Corby or even bring their daughter to visit him. This decision, though protective of Macy, is crushing for Corby, who feels as though he is losing his family along with his freedom. He desperately yearns for Emily's forgiveness and for a chance to rebuild their fractured lives. A significant symbolic element emerges when Corby, during detail outside the prison, encounters the nearby Wakwanak River. This river becomes a powerful talisman, connecting him not only to nature but also to the ancestral lands of the native people who once found refuge and peace along its banks. The river represents a source of truth, reflection, and a potential path to healing, echoing the Mexican folktale of the weeping woman that inspired Lamb. Throughout his 3 year sentence, Corby embarks on an arduous journey of soul-searching and self-reckoning. He confronts his addiction, battles his inner demons, and slowly, painstakingly begins to transcend the boundaries of his confinement. The novel explores the profound question of whether someone can truly atone for an unforgivable act and whether forgiveness, both from others and from oneself, is ever truly within reach. The River is Waiting doesn't offer easy or a sugar-coated resolution. It is the raw and unflinching portrayal of human suffering, the flaws of the justice system, and the complexities of redemption. By the novel's bittersweet conclusion, Corby has undergone a significant transformation, moving from a self-absorbed addict in denial to a man who has confronted the full weight of his actions. While the future of his family remains uncertain, Corby's journey is one of profound growth, resilience, enduring, albeit fragile, hope that mercy and reconciliation might still be possible, even after the most devastating of mistakes. Book review: Wally Lamb's The River is Waiting is a profound and unflinching exploration of guilt, atonement, and the arduous, often agonizing path toward redemption. Known for his deeply empathetic and emotionally resonant narratives, Lamb once again plunges into the complexities of the human condition, presenting a protagonist whose catastrophic mistake forces him into a crucible of suffering, self-reckoning, and the desperate search for forgiveness. The novel is not an easy read. It is a raw, immersive journey into the darkest corners of human experience, yet it ultimately offers glimmers of hope and the enduring power of human connection. The story centers on Corby Ledbetter, a man whose life at 30-something is already teetering on the edge. He's recently lost his job as a commercial artist, leaving his wife, Emily, a teacher, as the sole breadwinner. Compounding his professional woes is the overwhelming pressure of new fatherhood to energetic 2-year-old twins, Macy and Nico. To cope with the mounting anxiety and the sting of unemployment, Corby has developed a secret, insidious addiction: prescription anxiety medication and alcohol. He rationalizes his habits, telling himself they are temporary crutches, but they slowly erode his judgment in his already strained marriage. The narrative's inciting incident is the parent's worst nightmare, impaired by his addiction. Corby makes a devastating mistake while backing his car out of the driveway, resulting in the tragic death of his son, Nico. This single horrific act tears his family apart, plunging Corby into an abyss of guilt, grief, and despair. The immediate aftermath is a blur of shock, denial, and the crushing weight of responsibility. Corby eventually confesses his intoxication. Emily and the authorities accepting the consequences of his actions. He is subsequently convicted of second-degree involuntary manslaughter and sentenced to a 3-year term in Yates Correctional Prison. It is within the stark, unforgiving walls of this institution that the true heart of the novel unfolds as Corby embarks on a harrowing journey of self-discovery and the desperate quest for atonement. Character analysis: Corby Ledbetter and the ensemble. Corby Ledbetter is the deeply flawed, often unlikable, yet ultimately compelling protagonist. Lamb masterfully crafts a character who, despite his horrific actions, evokes a complex mix of sympathy and frustration from the reader. Initially, Corby is characterized by his self-pity, his denial of his addiction, and a certain immaturity in handling life's pressures. His internal monologue, delivered in person, can be self-absorbed and meandering, reflecting his clouded state of mind and the overwhelming nature of his grief. However, as the novel progresses and Corby endures the brutal realities of prison life, he undergoes a slow, arduous transformation. Inside Yates, Corby is stripped bare. He faces the dehumanizing routines, the constant threat of violence, and the soul-crushing monotony of incarceration. Lamb does not shy away from depicting the harsh realities of the American prison system, including the casual cruelty of some correctional officers and the complex hierarchy among inmates. Corby witnesses frightful acts of brutality, particularly at the hands of 2 sadistic guards who target him after he attempts to protect a vulnerable young inmate. These experiences force Corby to confront his own vulnerabilities and the systemic injustices that permeate the penal system. Yet, amidst the darkness, Corby also discovers unexpected glimmers of humanity and connection. His relationship with Manny, his tender-hearted cellmate, becomes a lifeline. Manny, a gay man with a pragmatic outlook and a surprising capacity for empathy, offers Corby companionship, a sounding board, and a sense of belonging in an otherwise isolating environment. The prison librarian also emerges as a beacon of hope, recognizing Corby's artistic inclinations and providing him with materials and space. This act of grace allows Corby to channel his immense pain and guilt into art, a crucial step in his healing process. Furthermore, Corby's decision to protect Solomon, a troubled and fragile young inmate, highlights his growing capacity for empathy and selflessness, demonstrating a shift from his earlier self-absorption. Emily, Corby's wife, is another deeply sympathetic character. Her grief over Nico's death is palpable in her struggle to reconcile with Corby and navigate life as a single mother to Macy forms a poignant parallel narrative. Her decision not to bring Macy to visit Corby in prison while protective of her daughter is a source of immense pain for Corby, underscoring the profound chasm that has opened between them. Lamb explores the devastating ripple effect of tragedy on a family, depicting Emily's resilience and her agonizing internal conflict between love, loss, and the possibility of forgiveness. The supporting characters, from the compassionate librarian to the menacing guards, contribute to the novel's rich tapestry, illustrating the diverse facets of human nature within the confined and often brutal world of prison. Lamb's decades of experience facilitating writing programs for incarcerated women lend authentic and nuanced perspective to the portrayal of prison life, making the setting feel visceral and real. Themes: guilt, redemption, and systemic injustice. The River's Waiting is rich with thematic depth, delving into universal human struggles. Guilt and atonement. At its core, the novel is a profound meditation on guilt. Corby's guilt is the relentless tormentor driving his actions and his internal monologue. The book meticulously charts his journey from initial denial and self-pity to a deeper understanding of his responsibility and the desperate for atonement. Lamb explores whether true atonement is possible for an unforgivable act and what that process truly entails. Redemption and forgiveness, hand in hand with atonement, is the theme of redemption. Can Corby be redeemed? And can he be forgiven both by those he has wronged and perhaps most importantly by himself? The novel suggests that redemption is not a singular event but a long, arduous process marked by small acts of courage, empathy, and self-awareness. Forgiveness, too, is presented as a complex, often elusive, and deeply personal journey, not a simple absolution. Addiction. Lamb offers a stark portrayal of addiction not as a moral failing but as a destructive coping mechanism that spirals out of control, leading to devastating consequences. Corby's reliance on substances highlights the insidious nature of addiction and its ability to blind individuals to the catastrophic impact of their choices. The American prison system. The novel serves as a powerful critique of the U.S. penal system. Lamb exposes its inherent flaws, its capacity for brutality, and the systemic injustices that disproportionately affect marginalized communities. Through Corby's experiences and his growing awareness, the narrative sheds light on issues of race, class, and the often inhumane treatment of inmates. The prison becomes a microcosm of societal inequities, forcing Corby to confront truths he had previously ignored. Grief and loss. Pervasive grief over Nico's death permeates every page. Lamb explores the multifaceted nature of grief not only for Corby but also for Emily and the fractured family unit. The novel examines how individuals cope with unimaginable loss and the long-lasting emotional scars it leaves. Emily and marriage. The strains on Corby and Emily's marriage are central to the narrative. Lamb portrays the fragility and resilience of familial bonds under extreme duress, questioning how much a family can endure and still remain whole. The novel explores the difficult choices made by loved ones in the wake of tragedy and the agonizing wait for potential reconciliation. Empathy and connection. Despite the bleakness of its setting, The River's Waiting is ultimately a testament to the enduring human need for connection and the surprising ways empathy can emerge in the most unlikely of places. Corby's bonds with Manny the librarian and Solomon illustrate the power of human kindness to sustain and transform even in the face of immense suffering. Writing style and emotional impact. Wally Lamb's signature writing style is immediately recognizable. Deeply immersive, richly detailed, and imbued with profound compassion. The first-person narration from Corby's perspective draws the reader intimately into his tormented mind, allowing for a raw and unfiltered exploration of his thoughts, fears, and hopes. While this can sometimes lead to a sense of claustrophobia or frustration with Corby's self-pity, it is for understanding his arduous internal journey. Lamb's prose is accessible yet evocative, capable of conveying both the mundane details of prison life and the profound emotional turmoil of his characters. He expertly balances moments of harrowing brutality with quiet instances of grace, preventing the narrative from becoming relentlessly bleak. The pacing, especially during Corby's time in prison, is deliberate, mirroring the slow, grinding nature, incarceration, and the gradual pace of personal transformation. The symbolism of the river introduced when Corby encounters the Wequanac River during a work detail is subtle yet powerful. It becomes a talisman, a connection to the natural world and to the historical narratives of the land's indigenous people, representing a source of truth, reflection, and the possibility of cleansing and renewal. The emotional impact of The River's Waiting is immense. It is a heart-wrenching novel that forces readers to confront uncomfortable truths about addiction, justice, and the capacity for both human cruelty and profound kindness. Lamb challenges the reader to empathize with a deeply flawed character, pushing the boundaries of compassion and questioning the nature of forgiveness. As one critic noted, it is an empathy bomb designed to crack open preconceived notions and foster a deeper understanding of human suffering and resilience. Strengths and considerations. The novel's greatest strengths lie in its unflinching portrayal of difficult subjects, its deep character exploration, and its powerful emotional resonance. Lamb's ability to find humanity and glimmers of hope in the darkest of places is the testament to his skill as a storyteller. The social commentary on the prison system and systemic injustice is timely and adds significant weight to the narrative. The book's exploration of atonement and forgiveness is nuanced and thought-provoking, offering no easy answers but a realistic depiction of the arduous process. However, some readers might find Corby's initial self-pity and the extensive focus on his internal struggles challenging. While essential for his character arc, his often unreliable narration and prolonged periods of despair can test the reader's patience. Additionally, some critics have noted that certain elements of the social commentary, particularly Corby's self-education on racism and systemic inequality, can occasionally feel didactic. Despite these considerations, they do not significantly detract from the overall power and importance of the narrative. Inclusion. The River is Waiting is a compelling and deeply moving novel that solidifies Wally Lamb's reputation as a master storyteller of the human heart. It is a testament to the enduring power of hope, the possibility of personal transformation, and the complex, often painful journey toward reconciliation and self-forgiveness. While it tackles profoundly difficult themes, addiction, tragedy, incarceration, and systemic injustice, it does so compassionate eye, ultimately reminding us of the resilience of the human spirit and the profound importance of human connection. For readers seeking powerful, thought-provoking, and emotionally resonant narrative that delves into the darkest corners of the human experience while still finding glimmers of light, The River is Waiting is an essential read. It will undoubtedly leave lasting impression, prompting reflection on the nature of guilt, the meaning of atonement, and the albeit fragile, possibility of healing.